After the brutal bullying at Ashington Middle School, how will Blarez face her past tormentors with a new identity? And how will her secret werewolf nature affect her path of revenge? Ready to witness a werewolf girl's revenge? Subscribe to our channel and don't miss a moment. Chapter 9, Off the Line. Relax, Jazzy, I hissed as I lifted the squirming cat into Chase's locker. Her claws were hooked into my hands and it took me 5 painful minutes to unlift her from my skin. She stared at me with big yellow, marble eyes as I closed Chase's locker, noting that there were vents so that the cat could breathe. "Me cat, where do you find her?" Amber asked me as we slowly began retreating from the locker. I glanced quickly up at the clock and felt the tension grip me when I noticed that the doors would be opening in 7 minutes. I can't wait to see Chase's face when he opens his locker only to be attacked by a cat. "In the dumpster down the street from my apartment," I replied, adjusting my backpack on my shoulder. Stupid cat shredded my English homework and left behind the stink of dumpster cat in my bag. Hopefully, it was worth it. "Come on," Danica moaned. "You never told us what happened on Friday." She shuffled her chair closer to mine, Maggie boxing me in on the other side, both of them waiting for me to fess up everything that happened at Abby's party Saturday evening. Maybe because there's nothing to tell. Taking a bite of my ham and cheese sandwich, Maggie groaned while Danica banged her head against the table, nearly spilling her milk. "You were with Justin somewhere for 2 whole hours. What the hell were you guys doing?" Maggie pleaded to know. I leaned back in my chair comfortably, eating away at my sandwich ignorantly. "If you're implying Justin and I got cozy together right after we saw each other for about 10 minutes and for years, then you're sorely mistaken." I rolled my eyes, glancing up at both the antsy and irritated girls. "So you guys did nothing?" Maggie pressed, digging for something intent. I groaned, letting my head hang in frustration. It's like they were craving for something hot to happen. Well, I certainly was. We talked, like actual human beings. Yeah, trying to get my words through their thick brains. But that's the thing. Danica practically yelled in my ear, causing me to drop my sandwich on the floor. I stared down at it longingly, letting my shoulders drop. "You owe me a new sandwich," continuing to stare down at my lost lunch. "Well, it was delicious while it lasted. My point is, Danica continued, "you're not any human being. You're a freaking werewolf. And we all know how intimate our wolf instincts are," Danica sang, Maggie raising her eyebrows at me. "Why are you such a pain in my ass?" Banging my head on the table. "Yeah, I was a werewolf. I'm aware. Yucky. And any day now I was bound to find my restricted mate. More like being chained to a husband for decades to come. Because we're your BFSFLE. We're here to make your life a living hell, then help you through it," Maggie said way too cheerfully. I glared up at her as she smiled back down so widely I almost laughed. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Continuing with Justin, Danica perked. "Anything you'd like to share? Have I not made it clear to you there is nothing to discuss?" I groaned, letting my head rest against the table again. "He and I are meeting up tomorrow to study for a test Wednesday in history." "Cap is he. That's all," I spat out, letting it hang out there for them to absorb. "Oh my god, WSH. Seriously?" Maggie gasped excitedly. "It was about time you coughed up some deeds." She narrowed her eyes at me before breaking out into her signature smirk. "Wait, that reminds me." Danica dragged, looking off into the distance as if she was searching for something. "What?" I asked eagerly, snapping my fingers in front of her eyes in hope to snap her back into reality. "When are you and your mom moving into the pack house?" She furrowed her eyebrows. I stared at her blankly, having no idea in God's name what the hell she was talking about. "Oh yeah," Maggie agreed, her face beaming in remembrance. "You guys are supposed to have a room in the pack house. I remember Ben was clearing out a couple rooms for you and your mom just a few days ago," she informed. I continued staring blankly, feeling like I was the only one in this conversation having no clue what was going on. "Wow, you've been gone for too long, sister," Maggie asked. "Was there no pack in New York or something?" "We needed time alone," I replied infuriately, an image of my dad flashing quickly behind my eyes. "Okay, listen up." Danica pulled my attention back to her. "There's a pack house where the entire or most of the pack lives. Ben, our beta, cleared out to vacant rooms for you and your mom. You get the one on the 3rd floor with the other wolves around your age, like us, and your mom gets a room below for the adults." "Okay," she paused, waiting for me to absorb it all in. The idea of a pack house was so vague to me, but I could just barely remember hearing about it. "That explains why my mom was refusing to unpack all the moving boxes," I murmured more to myself than to my friends. "Wait, but that means we're on the same floors," not wanting to believe it. "Yup, the boys," Danica somehow was able to finish. "All 8 of them, even Damon." I snarled at the name, my fists clenching. Unfortunately, Maggie shook her head depressingly. Already hating the idea of moving into a pack house. But I wasn't about to just deny my mom, who would roast me alive for just saying no to her on a demand. "Oh, to joy," I muttered sarcastically. "But it's not all bad," Danica assured. "I mean, it's in the middle of the forest, so there's plenty of running room and there are so many rooms to just lounge in. Plus, you get a lot more freedom," she went on excitedly. Maggie simply nodded. "I mean, it's like living under one big roof with your extended family," Maggie added. "Eat together, sleep together, and hunt together." She paused, thinking about it for a moment. "Scratch that. It's just hunting together. You can just eat whenever you want and just ignore the whole sleeping together thing. Separate rooms for everyone unless you're mated. Not bad, I guess." I shrugged as I grabbed Danica's lunchbox before she could stop me and swiped away her apple, taking a bite out of it. She growled, but I just returned it with a grin, my mouth full of apple meat. "Are they, dear?" "Plenty," Danica replied, though giving me a glare for the loss of her apple. "Good. Hunting's always good at this time of the year." To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. "Deer, rabbit, even the rare elk. Sounds like my kind of place," I affirmed nonchalantly, putting my legs up into a crisscross, applesauce position on my chair and finishing what was left of the apple, handing the core to Danica and wrapping us around it. "Trust me, you'll love it," Maggie reassured just as the bell rang, summoning us for class. Chapter 10, How Very Housewarming. "Hey, Mom." Entering her office right after school had ended for the day. I was curious to know when we'd be moving into our new rooms in the pack house. After a while of thinking and cunning, I realized sharing a floor with a couple boys I hate the most isn't such a terrible thing. It gives me more chances to set revenge forward. Especially since several boys from Damon's gang aren't wolves. They won't be clustering around him like usual. "Oh, hey, sweetheart." Mom greeted me as I shrunk into the chair across from her. She took off her reading glasses to look up at me with a warming smile. "So, I know we're moving into the pack house and I was wondering when that might be," I asked innocently. I can be badass at times, but around my mom, well, it's best to be more respectful towards her. She may seem all nice and caring, but when her motherly wolf instincts kick in, that's when you want to run for the hills. Oh, how'd you find out? She looked disappointed for a moment but continued before I could answer. It was supposed to be a little surprise, considering your birthday's Friday. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Ben and the boys just finished moving our boxes in this morning so we can head straight there as soon as I'm done with all this paperwork, she beamed, ushering down to the stacks of paper piled on her desk. I flinched when she said that my birthday was next week. I had been so sucked into revenge plotting, friends, and, well, Justin, that my 18th birthday had totally slipped my mind. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Well, do you mind if I head over with Maggie, Danica, and Amber? I sort of want to get a good tour of the place. You know how easily I can get lost in big places, I joked, setting a smile on my mother's lips. Go ahead, she grunted. I'll text you once I'm finished with all of this, she groaned, leafing through the heavy stack of papers. I quickly thanked and hugged her before sprinting out the door, meeting my friends out in the parking lot by Maggie's Jeep. The pack house was huge, 5 stories high, strong, intimidating wooden structure. Painted a pale white, accentuated with black shades and darkened windows. It was practically in the middle of nowhere, too. It was only about a 10-minute drive from the school, but it was isolated and set deep in the woods, surrounded by thick trees and brush. There was a wide, grassy field and bonfire pit in back where I'm sure the wolves trained and the younger pups hung out. But the inside seemed to be so much bigger than it looked from the out. A lot of adults and older werewolves hung around in the living room and kitchen, a couple on the second floor where all their rooms were. I won't even describe to you the sounds that came from several of the rooms. Just disturbing. Disturbing enough to make me fear what my mated years hold in store for me. The third floor. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Was a long corridor, a balcony at the end through a pair of glass doors. The hallway was lined with doors that were evenly spaced out. I noticed some familiar faces lingering in the hallway, talking secretly to another. Pretty snazzy, how Amber smirked, noticing my amazed face that was impossible to mask. I quickly shook off the look and shrugged coolly. Yeah, I guess, I said nonchalantly, crossing my arms. They snickered, Maggie furiously grabbing my arm. Your tough little lady attitude doesn't work on us, Miss Blarez, Danica snickered. Even you can't hide your face when you see your room, Maggie grinned. I was led down the hallway to the last door on the right, the one closest to the balcony. Amber hastily swung the door open and Maggie dragged me in, taking a step back so that I could absorb the surroundings and details of my large room. It was big and spacious, a little over the top, but I wasn't complaining. There were 2 large windows on the left wall, overlooking the forest and bonfire area. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Queen bed sat in the center of the room, pushed back against the far wall. To the right was a door that looked like it led to the bathroom, another one beside it that could very well be a closet. A pile of boxes, which I could only guess were my moving boxes, was stacked neatly in the corner. Comfy looking enough for you. Danica mused, strutting over and plopping down on the edge of the bed, feeling the silky sheets between her fingers. See where wolf girls get treated right. Amber smiled as jumped onto the bed, as spread out on her stomach in the center. Clearly, I agreed, kicking off my shoes and jumping onto the bed, nearly tackling Amber. I propped myself up on the large plush, red silky pillows, watching Maggie inspect the place, Amber and Loth on the sheets, and Danica pulling out her cell phone. Hey hey, someone suddenly yelled loudly. I glanced up and noticed Dan walking into the room, a wide grin on his face. What do you want, Dan? Amber growled, rolling her eyes as the brown-haired boy stood in the center of the room, taking a glance around. Nothing. Just wanted to welcome our new pack member. KC, he winked at me, a wide smile on his face. I remembered him like he'd never left my life. He was a sweet boy, if I remember right. I mean, he never stood up for me, but he never joined the others when humiliating me. We talked a few times and would be paired up for projects and do well, but we weren't close. Hey Dan. I waved coolly. Dan smiled back up at me before giving Amber a sly look. My friend just rolled her blue eyes at him. Oh yeah, Danica yelled, like she had just realized something important. You're the Beta's son. You're supposed to welcome all the new younger wolves, she stated. Oh, now it all made sense. Bingo, Dan chuckled. But that doesn't mean I didn't come you on my own free will. But you didn't. Amber and Danica giggling. Well, even if I didn't have to come here by force, I would have. His dark eyes shining with child-like happiness and amusement. Amber sighed, looking to be more interested in her nails than our conversation. Whatever. See you guys later, I guess. Heading back out the door. He's such an odd child, Amber whispered, shaking her head in amusement. I heard that. Dan called from the hall. Amber had to clap a hand over her mouth just to hold back the laugh that was trying to escape through her lips. Even I couldn't hold back the few snickers. Stupid werewolf hearing, she moaned quietly. I heard that too, Dan yelled back. This time Amber couldn't stop herself from laughing, Danica falling off the bed and clutching her stomach as she giggled silently on the floor. Even Maggie was just shaking her head with her hand clasped over her mouth. Oh my God. Maggie gasped once we all quieted down a bit. We all looked towards her with curious faces. I don't know about you guys, but my wolf has been bothering me for the past half hour. You guys want to take a run? She offered, stretching out her arms. Amber and Danica worked to agree and I wasn't far behind. I couldn't even remember the last time I had shifted. It felt like it's been forever. For privacy's sake and the fact there were a bunch of boys hanging in the hallway and outside, we undressed in my room, our backs towards each other and shifted there, running down the flight of stairs as large yet slim female wolves. It was the first time I was able to see my friends in their wolf forms. Amber had a thick, scarlet coat that accentuated her golden, blue eyes. Streaks of light orange, dark orange, red, black, and white were all mixed to make a beautiful, soft-looking coat. Danica had a light, earthy brown coat that resembled her brunette hair in human form. White, grey formed around her belly and chest, her paws completely snow-white. Maggie had a light grey coat with dark striations around her eyes and muzzle. Patches of darker grey, almost black, formed behind her ears and around her shoulders and back. White fur, like Danica, ran along her belly and chest. I felt so out of place with my coat though. The real reason I dyed my hair black was because my wolf silky coat was midnight black. But what was weird enough, instead of turning more golden like most wolves, my eyes were metallic silver and contrasting against my stormy grey human eyes. Once my paws pounded against the earthy soil, my claws digging into the earth, I felt my wolf instinct starting to take control. My tongue lolled out of my mouth as we ran towards the tree line, the wind rushing through my fur and caressing my skin. Remind me again why we don't do this more often? Maggie cackled through the mind link, her grey wolf appearing at my side. School, homework, jobs, Danica trailed, jumping over a large fallen tree trunk. Amber snapped at her heels, playfully annoyance from her rambling. The truth was painful enough without her listing them all. Danica in return bared her teeth at the slim red wolf, narrowing her eyes. Amber only yipped PE back, continuing to snap easily at Danica. Suddenly, the hairs on the back of my neck pricked lead and I lowered my head, my ears flicking back, lying flat on top of my head. A new smell was in the air and I knew it wasn't a wild animal. It was definitely wolf, but I didn't get to stop and investigate before Amber caught me in surprise and tackled me, the two of us tumbling through the brush. "Oh, you are in for it, girl." Lunging for Amber repeatedly as we darted through the forest, continuing our game of wolf tag. But the other wolf scent still lingered, looking into the back of my mind. Chapter 11, Unknown Species. Biting my lip, I nervously drummed the desktop with the eraser of my pencil, glancing constantly up at the clock. 3 minutes before school ended. Justin and I were going to meet up at the library to study for a history test the next day. I can't remember the last time I was this nervous, or nervous at all. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilbe, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. "Someone's really got a pee," Maggie whispered to me from behind, noticing my nervous motions. I threw her a side glare before rolling my eyes. "Wise ass," I hissed back at her. She knew just as much as I did that Justin and I were meeting up that afternoon. She just always had to push my buttons. But in a friendly way. She snickered, leaning back in her chair before returning to the lesson, or pretending to anyway. The teacher was in the middle of a sentence when the bell rang. Instant reaction from the students as they fumbled for their folders and book bags. I quickly swiped my bag from beside my desk and was the first to get out of the room, not waiting for Maggie to catch up, knowing she'd hunt me down in the halls and probably stalk me at the library. When I reached my locker, a small smile was able to crawl onto my face when I noticed Justin leaning up against the wall beside it, a little smile of his own on his face. "Sup?" Casey High grinned when he saw me approaching, slinging his backpack onto his shoulder. Returning his grin, "Not much. How about yourself?" Walking beside him down the crowded corridor, "Not much. We've got a lot of studying to do though, mister. Callaghan's really strict about the tests he gives." Rolling his eyes dramatically. I chuckled in agreement. Like usual, the school library was empty except for the librarian that slouched behind the desk, scolding at some People magazine in her hands. She barely spared us a glance as we walked in, making our way towards the way back corner of the library, behind one of the bookshelves and settling down at one of the tables. "So you've been, Ray, adjusting to Ashington well." Pulling out his notes and textbooks from his bag. "There's not much to, Ray, adjust to. It really feels like I never left." I replied, trying to get comfortable in the stiff wooden chair. "That's good." Like he didn't know what else to say. He casually fiddled with a pencil between his fingers, glancing over his notes anxiously. It fell quiet between us for a few minutes, reviewing our notes, but not knowing exactly what to say to each other. The both of us jumped in surprise when a chuckle taunted us from behind, cold and steely. We glanced back to see Dame and lean against the bookshelf, smirking down at us with his dark, hateful eyes. Luke and Chase were with him, though looking a little grimmer. I had to bite my tongue to keep myself from laughing when I got a good look at Chase. His face was swollen and checkered with scratches, but his arms were hiding in long sleeves. "What do you want, Damon?" I thought I already warned Usari Aries to stay away. I growled, narrowing my eyes up at the tall boy. I noticed how Luke's smirk faltered for a second at the mention of the other day and my warning. I would have thought that kick to groin would left a pain long enough to warn him to keep a far distance between us. Nothing, he answered snidely, slightly shrugging his broad shoulders. Justin was now glaring back up at the boys, too, the pencil still in his hand. Then get out of here. We're trying to study without you being a jack-ars. I snapped back at him. He just gleamed while his gang snickered, Damon's eyes narrowing on me. Just remember your place, Blarez. You may think you're such a punk, but you haven't seen the worst of me yet. He snarled. I noticed his eyes glimmer black for a second before returning back to their normal brown color. I felt my fist clench tightly at his words, my canines urinating in my mouth. I had to bite back the growl that tried to escape my lips so I wouldn't tip anything off to Justin. Remember yours. And it's not here. Go away, I barked. I wasn't going to challenge my sorry excuse of an alpha, but I needed him to leave. He grunted before he slowly turned around, leaving the library with his two friends following behind him. He's such a jerk, I muttered under my breath to Justin as we returned to our notes, but my rage still boiling. He murmured in response, his pencil still tightly clenched in his fist. He glanced back once more as if to check if they were really gone before continuing with his study. I collapsed onto my bed at the pack house, burying my face into my pillows. I let out a loud moan, letting my muscles relax and my eyes close. I was so tired from today and all I wanted to do was sleep. But it seems like nothing ever goes my way around here. Oh my god, WSH. KC, you must tell us everything about your study date with Justin. I heard Maggie's voice scream excitedly as my door swung open. I rolled onto my back and propped myself up on the plus pillows so I could look up as Amber, Maggie, and Danica flounced into the room. There's nothing to tell. Running a hand through my hair tiredly. The three of them were now sitting on my bed, all facing me and waiting impatiently for something that wasn't going to come. Tell us. Danica demanded in the two single words, her wide eyes staring at me intensely as though she could reach into my mind and see everything. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. What are you ladies talking about in here? Dan suddenly poked his head into the doorway, a cheeky grin spreading across his face. I groaned, the three girls rolling their eyes and Amber turning to glare at him. None of your business. Dan, go away, Amber groaned, propping her head on her fist, knowing all too well the boy wasn't going to leave. Hey, I have an idea. Why don't all of you go away? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. Ushering towards the door. You're e-forcing info out of our dear old friend, Casey. Why would I leave now right when she's about to spit it out? He grinned, clearly ignoring me completely and strutting over to the bed. He jumped onto the mattress and sat like Amber lying on his stomach with his head propped on his hands, looking up at me as if I was telling some fascinating story. You're once strange, dude, Amber muttered, shaking her head resentfully. Dan just smiled back at her, almost pleased at her statement. You were saying, Your Highness? Dan asked nicely, fluttering his eyelashes for effect. I gave him a look that said everything. What the heck are you? Again, nothing to say. We were studying and small talking until Damon and his friends came in. I growled, feeling my hatred for the alpha rise again. Damon was at the library, Danica gasped, as if that was the mystery of the whole statement. Well, he's not stalker, ish or anything, Maggie drawled, Danica nodding her head in agreement. Wait, who are we talking about? Dan asked. You were with whom? She was with Justin at the library when came along and totally destroyed the moment, Amber explained impatiently. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. So Casey has the hots for just Anne Reid. Dan's eyebrows shot up as he looked up at me, smouldering. Yeah. Keep up with us. Giving him a light shove. Okay, I still think there's something off with Damon, Maggie blurted. Remember the other week when I said he was acting weird? The day Casey came back. Yeah. What's your point? Amber shrugged, glancing from me to her. I thought we agreed it was hormones. I stated plainly, wanting to just move on with this discussion of Damon. Just the mention of him was giving me a headache. Oh, so is that what girls talk about when guys aren't around? Dan smirked, glancing around at us. May I? Amber asked, slightly nodding towards Dan. Be my guest, I granted dully. Amber frowned as she reached over and flicked down between the eyes, Dan grunting at the action, his hand flying to his forehead. Oh, he mumbled, glaring across at Amber as she grinned sweetly back at him. Moving on, Maggie continued. He's obviously not himself. Now that, I will agree with, Dan said, pointing to Maggie. Being Beta's son, I get to hear a lot of interesting things. Apparently, he's in the market for a mate and he's eager to find his. Del informed us in a hushed tone, like it was some government secret. Well, to my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He continued, my dad's pressuring him into finding his mate. Something to do with taking control of the pack or whatnot. He needs a lunar to help him. Especially since his parents are, like, dead and all. Well, that explains a lot. Danica nodded. No, that only explains a part of it. He's still a jerk. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And you won't back off, I muttered, crossing my arms stubbornly. I hated it when people didn't fear me in some way. They all should, especially Damon. I'm sure he's very well aware he's on my hit list. They suddenly grew quiet, leaving the air around us slightly awkward. Dan said nervously, I am exhausted. I have had enough gossip for one day. See you girls later. He waved before hightailing out of my room. Maggie, Danica, and all stared at each other and at me awkwardly, Maggie fiddling with her fingers. Anyhow, we have school tomorrow. You know, today being Wednesday and everything, Danica said, stretching as she jumped back from my bed, Maggie following. I'm gonna hit the hay, she stated before her, and Maggie hastily hurried out of the room. I narrowed my eyes at Amber as has wandered around the room and avoided my gaze. See you later, she squeaked, darting out of the room and leaving me in complete silence. Great. Now I was going to have to pry the secrets from my own friends. And Dan. Wonderful. Cussing under my breath, I closed my door and jumped back onto my bed, hiding under the thick covers, surrounded in darkness and my own thoughts. Chapter 12. My Casey. Where did your short attention take you this time? I barely heard Dolly call from behind me, her hands suddenly waving in front of my face. I snapped myself out of my thoughts from that particular Wednesday afternoon to glare over at my smirking friend. So funny. Smart ARS. I sneered, tossing the football between my hands. Ollie and I were practicing a one scrimmage after school on the football field of the school. But seriously, what are you thinking about? Brain. Playfully shoving me as she dropped to the ground. I sat down beside her, thumbing the rough material of the football in my hands while I stared blankly into the distance. Tired, thinking about how oddly my friends had been acting. Ever since they ran out of my room the day before, they've been avoiding me, Not one of them came to lunch. Not even Dan was in the lunchroom. Casey, I know that's bullshit, Ollie's saying, rolling her eyes. I know you when you're tired and it sure ain't pretty. She laughed. This is distracted, not tired. There's a lot on my mind then. To my agent extraordinaire, Magdalene Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Running a hand tiredly through my hair. Yeah, no shat, Sherlock, she scoffed. Care to be more specific? You are a very persistent person, aren't you? Wow, Blarez, I thought you knew me better, she chuckled, shaking her head resentfully yet amused. Spirit. Schoolwork, crushes, bullies. The average teenage, high school drama, I blandly stated, not needing to give away too much information. By bullies, you mean Damon? She inferred, glancing around the field suspiciously as though just the mention of his name would summon the demon himself. Unfortunately, a chill running down my spine at the thought of the alpha being near. I couldn't help but glance around. The guy's a creep. I know everybody's been noticing that he's acting all wonky. She whispered to me secretively, side-glancing once more. Define wonky, I requested, leaning back and using my arms to support me, my palms digging into the grainy black turf and plastic green grass. He slithers about the holes, all sneaky and in the shadows. He's not all loud and proud, flaunting off his muscles to every popular, brained gird he's. The listener not listener, the talker, the loner not the gangster, the snarky and not the badass. You know what I mean. She listed, awkwardly biting her lip and trying to think about it at the same time. He's not exactly an open book. Maggie, Danica, Amber, and I think it's just hormones. But carefully thinking about what she had said, her definition of Dame Dan being wonky. Ollie just shook her head. I'll agree with you on him being a closed book and all, but I think hormones are pushing it. He's just an odd dude is all I'm saying. She raised her hands in defense before tucking a strand of her short black hair behind her ear. I just say he's not worth the discussion. I swear I've heard his name more in the past 3 days than I have ever heard in my entire life. Seeing his face is enough to get me sick, but talking about him is just stack. I gagged, getting to my feet and helping Ollie to hers. True that, sister, she agreed. Her eyes then wandered past me, a grin sneaking to her face, and I quickly followed her gaze. Leaning against the gate, grinning at me was Justin. He slightly waved at me and I returned it, showing the faintest of smiles. What was the other thing on your mind? Ollie wondered sarcastically. Oh, would it have happened to have been crushes? She snickered, swiping the football from my hands. You know, if you want to get close to him, a decent game of football never hurt. Especially when there's tackling and we all know how aggressive the KC Blarez can get. She teased, balancing the football on her fingertip. Ask him to play. I'll sneak out of here when I know you got him pinned, she taunted. I stuck my tongue out at her, unable to stab her with a glare. You just can't back off my nerves for 10 minutes now, can you? I muttered, walking backwards in Justin's direction. Oh, Blarez, you know me just enough to know I can't. She winked, turning and trotting towards the white 50-yard line. I rolled my eyes as I spun around and went towards Justin, meeting him at the gate. Hey, Casey, what's up? Smiling down at me. I shrugged nonchalantly, hoping he hadn't heard mine and Ollie's conversation. Nothing much. You want to play a quick game of football with Ollie and me? To my agent extraordinaire, Magdalene Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Hoping it didn't come out as desperate as it sounded. He glanced up at Ollie before looking back at me, clearly thinking about it. Please, just practice. Ollie's been a pain in my arse about me being a sucky linebacker and I could use the pointers. Again, trying not to sound desperate and whinny. Sure, why not? Dropping his bag and hopping the fence. I grinned as I ran back towards the center of the field, meeting Ollie in the middle. What up? SHM Annie Spance. Ollie smirked once Justin lined himself up at the line. Oh, Justin retorted, crossing his broad arms as I punched Ollie in the shoulder. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Crazy Case and I, the amazing Ollie, against Justin the chump. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Ollie beamed cheekily, tossing Justin the ball. Whatever you say. Your amazingness, Justin said sarcastically, smirking as he placed the football in the center of the field and backed up towards the 30-yard line. I don't need your sass. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Ollie called as she and I backed away from ball towards the field goal. Some mature friends I have. Without even a countdown, Justin sprinted forward and kicked the ball, sending it flying towards the goal. Ollie went sprinting for it, catching it in the air and running back towards the other goal. You were a little short there, not Ollie teased, flaunting the football in the air. Justin was already running in pursuit. He didn't even attempt to come back before he lunged for her, missing her by a few inches and giving her the liberty of running across the goal line. Harder than you thought. Ollie smirked as she skipped by Justin and back towards the 50-yard line. Oh, just hush and hike the ball, readying himself for the next go. She tossed me the ball and I darted towards the goal, knowing Justin was already on my heels. I didn't even make it far before I tumbled to the ground, the ball flying from my hands and Justin pinning me. You weren't even trying. Justin laughed as I flipped onto my back, the muscled boy straddling me. Oh, I think I was trying pretty hard. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Glancing around, Ollie winked at me as she ran from the field, leaving me and Justin like she had planned out. If you were trying, I wouldn't have been able to catch you. He grinned, green eyes looking down into mine. Then what was the point in asking you to play if I wasn't trying? Noticing him slowly leaning in towards me, I have no clue. But I hope you'll tell me. His lips carefully and almost hesitantly brushed along mine, his hot breath fanning my neck. I wrapped my arms around his neck, slowly drawing him closer. I pressed my lips to his and he instantly reacted, our lips moving in sync. For the first time in years, butterflies filled my stomach, but it didn't last long. Justin was suddenly torn out of my embrace and thrown a few feet away from me, Damon looming over my stunned body, his eyes pits of blackness. What the hell? I yelled, quickly getting to my feet and glaring up at the taller boy. What the hell was that? Justin growled, storming up to him, his fists clenched at his sides. Damon barely glanced at him before glancing down at me. Please, like he could ever get you anywhere in life, Damon snarled to me, barely nodding towards Justin, his eyes returning back to their natural colors. Like it's any of your freak in business, I spat, my wolf raging on the inside. It's stereotypical to only believe males are the possessive ones, when really, the females can be just as aggressive and possessive as the male. And I was furious that Damon just tore away Justin from my grip. It is my damn business. Damon yelled, especially when I knew Alpha. He added through the mind link so Justin, who stood barely a foot away, wouldn't hear. Damon, I don't know what your problem is, or what it has been, but you need to freak and back off. Justin tried to stay calm, though his teeth tightly clenched together. My problem? I don't have a problem. You're going to have one though if you don't back off. Damon shoved him back, nearly sending Justin back to the ground. I growled at him, my canines growing out. You know what? I interfered. Let's just get out of here. Justin, I muttered as I grabbed Justin by the arm and started towards our bags on the opposite side of the field. Go home, KC, Damon demanded through the mind link, making me cringe. It was his freak in alpha tone, and no matter how hard I tried to resist it, as a werewolf I couldn't. I let go of Justin and picked up my bag. I'm sorry. I gotta go. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? I offered quietly as he reached down to pick up his bag. Fine. But I knew he was pissed. Pissed with Damon. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nelben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. We headed off in separate directions and I ignored Damon's cold glare as I stormed away, heading straight towards the Pack house. Chapter 13 Big Bad Alpha. Growling, I threw my backpack to the side and jumped face first onto my bed, screaming loudly into the sheets. My wolf was still thrashing on the inside and it took all the strength I could muster up to keep her in. I hated Damon enough, but now I despised the guy. My goddamn alpha. Without hesitation, I shifted, my clothes tearing off my large fury body. I jumped off my bed and ran down the hall, ignoring the concerned looks Amber and Maggie gave me as they peered out the doorway of Danica's room. I pushed past several people as I sprinted out of the house, heading straight for the woods. The sun was now just setting behind the tree line, sending the evening into dusk. My black coat blended into the dark scenery around me, making my run perfect. The last thing I wanted was to be seen. Being invisible seemed like the best thing at the moment. My paws beat heavily against the leaf, littered ground, branches and brush tugging at my fur as I ran. My tongue lolled out of my mouth, my breath visible in the cool evening air. I heard the sound of rushing water up ahead and knew it was probably a river or stream. I gradually slowed to a lean walk, my head low to the ground and my hackles raised. The brush cleared into a flowing, clear river, at least 30 feet wide. However, it was maybe the most peaceful thing in the woods at the moment. Slowly, I trekked along the rocky shore, the round stones wet and slippery beneath my padded paws. The water was cool, flowing between my paws and licking at my slim, muddy legs. I carefully walked farther into the river, the water slowly rising with each step I took. The gentle current pried away all the stress that clung onto me moments before. I was several feet away from the center when the water rose to my shoulders, everything but my back and up submerged in the soothing water. I relished the silence the forest brought, having an actual moment to think and not be swarmed by friends or Justin or Damon. But it didn't last. The scent I had caught the other day filled the air again, and I glanced around. Alarmed. It was the wolf scent, but not one I knew. Maybe it was just a wild wolf, not a shifter. Nothing appeared indifferent from the trees and brush. It was all still. Whether it was a wild wolf or not, I wanted to be alone. For the moment, this was my territory. I prowled along the riverbed, walking closer to the shore so the surface of the water only swirled around my knees. It remained silent, but the scent didn't go away. Another one joined it. Except this one I knew far too well. Painfully well. My ears flicked back as I released a snarl, following my unwanted company's eyes as they crawled from the brush, trained on me. Damon. He slowly circled me, like prey, studying my defensive stature. I kept my eyes on him, my lips curled back into a snarl, and my hackles raised in defense. Alpha or not, He had no right to be preying on me right after what he did at the field. Get the hell away from me, Damon, I snarled through the mind link. The dark, charcoal grey wolf just grunted, lowering his head in an assertive motion. In his wolf form, Damon was almost twice my size and could easily pin me down. If I didn't fight back, that is. I mean it, or I'll give you an ass-kicking like your buddy Luke, I added with a feral growl. Except I'm much less friendly when I'm more wolf than girl. Narrowing my eyes. You're pathetic. His golden eyes rising to meet mine. I growled at his insult. Justin's a weak, spineless fool if he believes there's something in you. You were just a disease-ridden mutt since the day you were born. My claws scraped into the rocky riverbed, wishing they were digging into Damon's flesh. Baring my canines, I released another feral snarl towards him. Shut up, I barked, trying my hardest to not lash out at my alpha. There would be some serious consequences for doing that. You're worthless. You always have been, always will be, he continued, starting to circle me again. I snapped at him, only as a threat though. Get out of here, I howled, my canines bared, my eyes narrowed. I don't even understand why you came back. You're weak, just like your father was. That tore it. Snarling, I lunged, feeling my claws rake against Damon's flesh. I wasn't even thinking about the trouble I was getting myself into as I aimed for his neck, my jaws snapping for flesh. All I could think about was my daddy, the memories I had left of him, and how he never had done wrong. I finally got my jaw apped around the larger wolf's neck, my sharp carnivorous teeth grazing the flesh. I wanted right then and there to tear his throat out, to kill him for making me suffer for all those years, for insulting my late father, for everything he had done to me. But he was my alpha, and his death would lead to my own. I won't stoop down to your level, you jackass, I muttered, hesitantly releasing him from my stern grip and jumping back. Unlike you, I know the difference between harmless fun and games and real pain, I huffed, turning my back to him. The mysterious scent that was in the air only moments ago had faded, making me wonder more what it had been. Damon growled, and the next moment I felt his heavy paw on my neck, pinning me to the ground. You think you're so tough, so badass, he taunted, but really, you're just bluffing. You don't know me anymore, Blarez. Maybe then you could have beaten me around like you're doing to my friends, but now I won't take it. I'm stronger than you, KC, and I think you know it. Get off of me, you bastard. I tried snapping for his paw, but he only pressed it harder against my neck, forcing a whimper through my lips. I control you now, pen your alpha male. Keep that in mind next time you want to make a statement out in public, he threatened, stepping back and releasing me, but I remained still on the forest floor. And stay away from that Justin boy. If you were really so smart, then you'll know you're just making more of a fool out of yourself. Glaring at me as he turned and slunk back into the brush, the sound of his paws pounding against the earth and slowly fading. Screw him. Cautiously, I stood, shaking my coat dry and free of snag leaves and branches. As long as it ticks him off like that, there's more fun in hanging around Justin than just having a huge crush on him. Alpha or not, he can't tell me what to do like his freaking servant. No way in hell. Chapter 14, The Big 18. What's up, pal mate? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Where the hell are we going? I haven't seen y'all for 2 days, and now you want to kidnap me. What up with that? I yelled as Maggie pushed me into the passenger seat of her Jeep right after she made me get all dressed up. Amber and Danica hopped into the back as Maggie walked around to the driver's side, grinning wildly. Oh, hush up, KC, Maggie grinned, rolling her eyes. It's your 18th birthday for crying out loud. All wolves know what happens on their 18th birthday. Yeah, I know. You find your mate, and it's not on your 18th B-day. It can be any time after, I clarified, rolling my eyes at the idea of a mate, a soulmate and eternal lover. Well, I think you'll find yours soon. Really soon, Amber murmured from the back seat. I glanced back at her, but before I could ask, Maggie stepped on the gas, rattling my seat and speeding down the road, heading onto the highway. I just say we don't worry about it right now, Danica burst, smiling between the three of us. I'm sure Dan's already at the club waiting, so we should just turn up the volume and quit the nonsense chit-chat. Amber nodded in agreement and Maggie was quick to turn the radio louder. Kristen, I aided Barger's good by blasting through the speakers. Am I supposed to be torn apart, broken-hearted? In a corner crying, pardon me if I don't show it? The young artist sang, Amber and Danica waving their hands in the air to the rhythm of the music. Cut my hair cause everybody need a new know you like the long had to switch my attitude up. I couldn't help but sing along, having a familiarity to the lyrics. Just able to belt out the sassy, punk lyrics that seemed to connect to my own life made me feel so much better. Forgetting about my run-ins with Damon and the odd scent out in the woods and the fact that my friends had been avoiding me since Tuesday. So where are we going anyway? I yelled over the music to Maggie. She just smirked at me, barely taking her eyes off the road. You're gonna have to find out when we get there, she replied, shrugging. I glanced back to Danica and Amber, hoping they'd have an answer for me. Amber made the motion of zippering her lips and throwing away the key, and Danica just shook her head, grinning slyly. The song then changed, and the moment the new beat started playing, Amber stood up, gripping the back of my seat and screaming the lyrics at the top of her lungs. Shots, 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 everybody. Danica burst out laughing, her arms wrapped around her quivering body as she stared wide-eyed up at our crazy red-headed friend. Shots, Patrons on the rocks, and I'm ready for some shots. The women come around every time I'm pouring shots. Maggie was dying from laughter now, biting her lip to try and control it, but failing. Amber was pumping her fist into the air, keeping a tight grip on my seat for safety with the other. If you're feeling drunk, put your hands in the air. If trying to FCK, then put your hands in the air. Now say I mef ked up. She chanted the next verse, catching the attention of college boys in the Mustang convertible in the lane beside us. They get cold and hollered, carefully observing Amber and the rest of us. The guy in the driver's seat seemed especially interested in me, winking when he noticed me glancing at him. Keep driving, buddy. Nothing on board for you or your crew. Danica yelled, shaking her finger at them. Amber, fake pouting, nodded in agreement as she waved her fingers at them. They all sneered and scoffed as the driver stepped on the gas, speeding ahead of us. Human wannabes, Maggie scoffed, rolling her eyes. If only they knew femme-wolf instincts. Then they wouldn't be hitting on us. She laughed, Danica and nodding along. As if she'd been cued, Amber howled loudly towards the sky. Danica and I glanced at each other, shrugging before following along, the three of us howling into the night. You guys are so weird. Maggie laughed. Oh, and you're not. Punching her in the shoulder. OMG, it's the next exit. Amber squealed suddenly, pointing towards the bright green sign that read Exit 7, New York City, as she sat down in her seat. Oh my God, we're in New York. Seriously, where the hell are we going? I exclaimed, my eyes locked on the white block lettering. Calm down. Don't get your new panties in a twist, Maggie taunted, making me gasp. For some odd reason, my mom had gotten me practically a whole new wardrobe for my birthday, consisting of a lot of nice dresses including the short, black, shredded clubbing dress I was wearing, skirts, and lingerie. She ignored all my questions but demanded that I started wearing them. I wanted to question how Maggie knew that, but didn't bother, knowing I wouldn't get a response. Suddenly, heavy music filled the air, accompanied by laughing and yelling, and bright neon lights blared all around me. On the right was Eden's Garden, the most famous werewolf club in the New England area now. "We are not going in there," I gasped, having trouble containing my excitement. I've heard a lot about the place but never expected to be going to it. I never dreamed of it. "Oh yes we are, birthday girl," Amber shrieked, not waiting for the car to completely park before hopping out. Once Maggie pulled into the spot, we climbed out, admiring the decorated club from the outside. Like the Legend's Garden, large trees wrapped in snake-like vines decorated the outside, the branches forming the sign that was lit up with crimson red and midnight blue neon lights, spelling out the name of the club. The entrance just looked like a dark opening of shadows and nightfall. "Let's have some fun, this beat is sick, I want to take a ride on your disco stick." "Let's have some fun, this beat is sick, I want to take a ride on your disco stick." The song by Lady Gaga echoed from the club, sending my body into the swaying motion. "Let's go. You can dance inside," Danica giggled, grabbing my arm and dragging me across the street. We didn't even have to hop into the block-long line. All we had to do was walk up to the bouncer and wave. Werewolves are considered VIP. Amber grinned as though reading the question that hadn't even formed in my head yet and answering it. "The bouncer's one of us and can easily tell the difference," she told me, leading me past the first room. Neon lights blared, flashing across the dance floor and the dancing bodies. However, we headed upstairs onto the second floor, amazing being an understatement. The dance floor was designed to look like some enchanted forest with fog swirling around the floor eerily, engulfing people's feet. Dark, haunting trees rose from the ground to the ceiling, concealing it with vines, branches, and leaves, like a canopy. Around the room, stages like face-to-struck supported dancers, dressed in short leather skirts and tube-tops. The flashing lights seemed to come from the rock's bases and from the darkness that seemed to surround the room. It was Eden's Garden. "I died and went to heaven," Maggie stated, looking around wide-eyed, which is funny. "I could sworn I was going straight to hell," she added with a snicker. "Tell me about it," Danica chimed in. "Now is this a birthday or what?" Amber asked, her smile spreading from ear to ear. "I let you know right after you buy me a drink," pointing towards the bar that was barely peeking out from behind the shade of vines. "Right away, your royal pain," she joked, flaunting her hips from side to side as she strutted towards the bar while I followed closely behind her, leaving Maggie and Danica to the dance floor. "Let's have some fun, this beat is sick, don't think too much, just bust that kick. I want to take a ride on your disco stick, let's play a love game." "Play a love game? Do you want love or do you want famed Am's love game? Hey hey hey, there's the birthday girl," Dan yelled when we stepped through the shade of vines. It looked as though he was about to hug me, but immediately stopped himself, sticking with his welcoming and cheeky smile. "What's up, Dan? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." Sliding onto one of the red leather stools at the bar, he sat on the one to my right as Amber plopped down in the one at my left, just waiting for the big cheese and her 3 saucy friends. He laughed, leaning against the counter nonchalantly. I snickered as Amber reached over and punched Dan in the arm right as the bartender came over to serve us. "Shut up, you little cheese," Amber hissed, hinting a small sly grin. Hey, don't hate the dude. He raised his hands in defense, winking at Amber. She rolled her eyes at him just as a glass of colorful liquid was placed in front of Amber and I each, salt lining the rim. Just like virgin margaritas. Except they ain't virgin, Amber informed when I stared curiously at it. She didn't hesitate before she picked up hers, taking a large gulp. I know, but I ain't a fruity drink kinda girl. I prefer the strong stuff. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Pushing my drink towards her, yo, one shot of liquor. I called down to the bartender. He gave me a thumbs up before he started filling a shot glass for me. Why am I not surprised? Dan gaped, shaking his head. I murmured before shooting the liquor, feeling the burning liquid run down my throat. I was quick to order my second round, then for more later and a glass of vodka. PARTYRTYRNTHEHOUSCTONIGHT Eve EOYBODYJUSTHAHOOTIME. Jumping up onto the stage, IMMAMAEYOUIMIND. EVOYBODYJUSTAHEAHOOTTIME. And she's gone. Girls. I heard them yell over the music to Maggie and Amber as they stared up at me in amusement. No, sir. I think you're gone. My feet feeling unsteady beneath me. The stupid high heels not making it any easier for me to keep my balance. SHAT EVOYDAYIMSUFFLIN. I continued, swaying my hips to the party rock anthem that blasted from the speakers, practically vibrating the place. YOINTHECLUB PARTYROCK NON STOPWHENWHITTHESPOT BOOTYMOVINWTHTLIKESAHEBLOCK WITHADERNKIJTOKNOW TIGHTJENS TETTOOS CAUSEIMROCKN OLL HALFBLACK HALFWHIT DOMIN GNGTHEMONEYOUTTHEDOOR Who's LMFBO now? Suckers. I yelled, running my hand through my straightened black hair as I continued my little dance. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. No more alcohol for Casey, Maggie screamed up at me, crossing her arms sternly, but unable to hide the amused grin on her face. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Who made you my mother? Miss Borsy Pants. Shaking my finger at her. Suddenly, Danica came pushing her way through the crowd towards us, looking slightly panicked. Guys, slight problem, she said to specifically Dan, Ember, and Maggie. Yeah, I know, right. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You're such a party pooper. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Half falling, half jumping down from the stage and shakily standing up, having to lean against Dan for support. Damon's here, she muttered, biting her lip. EW, that guy is, like, a total creeper. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Poking Amber's arm until she slapped my hand away in irritation. Casey, maybe we should head home, don't you think? Maggie offered, trying to grab my arm, but I avoided her reach now. I came here to party and dance and be 18 years young and... Stuffs. I growled, feeling all hyped up and wanting to stay for. Like, to my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Milburn, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. No, how about we leave? She insisted, looking slightly panicked, like something really bad was about to happen. Look, to my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Milburn, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Poking her shoulder. If you are so scared of Mr. Alpha Man, then I shall go and scare him off. No, let's not do that now, Danica urged, glancing to Amber and Maggie for help. You know what? I think I will. Storming off and slowly making my way through the dance floor. I knew my friends were probably after me, but I would not have Damon stalk me around like some creeper every single little thing. I don't care if he was the dang king of F or EZNO. I still would give him a good beating, hey. Mr. Alpha of FREZENO. I yelled once I caught sight of the guy I was hunting, standing in the center of the room like he was looking for something. The moment he turned in my direction, I planted a punch right across his face. However, the pain of my knuckles splitting was masked by something else. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Milburn, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. An electric shock. It shot through my body like a wave of energy, sending my heart into frenzy, my brain fuzzy and blurred. Well, more blurred than it already was. Damon looked down at me, his eyes pitch black, staring right into mine. But it wasn't rage that reflected in his eyes. It was lust. No, there was no way. There was no possible freak in way. He couldn't be my mate. The bully, jerk of an alpha could not be my mate. It had to be wrong. Somehow, some way, it had to be wrong. I would have preferred Dan as my mate over Damon. And that's saying something. Oh crap. I heard Dan mutter behind me, but I wasn't able to tear my eyes from Damon's. Horror, hate, lust swimming around my mind all at once. You're my mate. I gasped, unable to handle all of this. It was wrong. It was so very wrong. No, I'm not. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Milburn, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Tearing his eyes away from mine. That's bullshit. Damon, Dart snapped, walking up to us. You freak, in no case he's your mate. You've believed it for days now. We've all known. You're just too self-centered to admit it. The young beta snarled. Damon turned to growl at him, baring his fangs. No, she's not. She's just saying that. She's a pathetic little liar. Damon argued through clenched teeth, pointing towards me. Is she really the pathetic one? Or is it you? Amber damned, grabbing me by the arm and pulling me away, my legs weak and jello-like. Danica and Maggie followed behind, leaving Damon arguing with Dan as he watched the four of us storm out, one of us more shattered than ever before. Chapter 15. Sugar. Spice. A whole lot of spite. You knew. You knew. I practically screamed the moment we stepped foot in my room. My three friends flinched at my rising, furious voice. Well, we had our suspicions, Danica murmured quietly, wringing her hands, glancing down at her feet as she spoke. Why the hell didn't you tell me? I questioned, beginning to pace back and forth in front of them, my arms crossed tightly over my chest. Is that why you've been avoiding me? Because what happened Tuesday afternoon? Maybe, Amber roared quietly. I can't believe you guys. I gnawed, rolling my eyes, my heartbeat speeding up. I hated this feeling more than anything I've ever felt before. My stomach was in knots and my heart was practically vibrating in my chest. It was painful. We thought it would be best if you found out yourself, Maggie whispered, glancing towards Danica, who just nodded. Besides, we weren't really 100% positive. Whatever, I muttered, but sort of agreeing with them. I guess it would have just caused more trouble ahead of time. But it would have given me a head start and great advantage on my next trick. Well, Dan walked into the room, shaking his head before glancing up at me. A sly smirk was already slithering to my face as my plan drew itself out in my head. I bit my lip, trying to stop it, but I was getting all excited, even making my wolf aroused. Oh, that's never good, Dan stated, his eyes trained on my face. I noticed Maggie's and Danica's face pale, probably thinking they were now next on my hit list. Lucky for them, they're not. Not yet anyway. Yo girl, what are you scamming now? Amber asked, the corner her lips pointed slightly downward in a frown. I paused in the middle of my pace, turning to my friends with my snake-like grin. Well, my original revenge on Damon was to blow off his family jewels by placing firecrackers in his toilet, but I thought of something maybe just a tad better. I confessed, twirling my hair around my finger and biting my lip mischievously. Dang man, firecrackers. That's sick. Dan gagged, his hand flying to his friend down south. My friends' faces were practically ghostly white, staring in horror. How can anything be better than that? Amber broke into a wide smile, cackling. I'm going to make him want me. I grinned, watching Danica's and Maggie's eyebrows shoot up in question and confusion while Amber's face fell in disappointment. I will admit I was pretty proud of the firecracker prank, but think about how tourist this new idea will be. I thought we were aiming the opposite way, Danica said, her eyebrows knitting together as she was thinking about what she just said and putting together what I had said, trying to make sense of it all. Nope, he doesn't want me, but we're mates. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I interrogated, trying to take it step by step so that it was clear. They hesitantly nodded, Dan looking a little frightened, standing safely behind Amber. So, his ints want me. His wolf has already shown this weak possessive lie when I was with Justin. Even if he doesn't want me just as much as I don't want him, he's not going to be able to control himself. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Working out my plan in my head. If I make him want me, it'll drive him insane. It'll kill him on the inside. I whispered the last part, feeling my eyes flicker silver, like my wolf's. Her pain of being rejected was enough to fuel my anger and mischief. You're insane. Maggie laughed like it was unbelievable. I caught a hint of doubt in her voice. Maybe, but Karma's never exactly mentally sound. Walking back to my bed and sitting on the edge, staring up at my friends. Touch Maggie agreed, thinking about it. Starting Monday. That LL give me the weekend to prepare. I put my plan in action. And Dan, I pointed to him, making him jump and shrink back the tiniest bit. Damon doesn't need to know any of this. Gutted. I threatened through clenched teeth, baring my canines. Hey. Don't worry. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I'm on your side on this one. He smiled nervously, holding his hands up in calm defense. I grinned, pleased. This was going to be very, very exciting. It was about time I got back at him, and it's going to be more fun for me than pain for him. Damon Fallon would finally meet his match. If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like, and turn on the notification bell to never miss an update.